$2,000 a month for a place you'll never own, with walls so thin you know your neighbor's coffee order. At some point, that stops being city living and starts being a subscription to someone else's mortgage. Here's the thing, though. Right now, in 10 real towns across the U.S., you can buy an actual house, yard, garage, real square footage for less than what you're paying in rent this year. Every single one has a catch. But knowing the catch is exactly what turns a reckless idea into a genuinely smart move. Yes, the ground is literally on fire. A coal mine beneath Centralia has been burning since 1962 and has zero plans to stop. The state condemned most of the properties, bought people out, and essentially erased the town from official maps. Population went from over 1,000 to somewhere around 5 people who looked at all of that and said, "I'm good, actually." So here's what makes Centralia fascinating beyond the obvious weirdness. On cold mornings, steam rises through cracks in the old roads. The abandoned streets are completely reclaimed by nature. It looks like a movie set, except nobody's filming and nobody's leaving either. Buying here isn't really a real estate decision. It's more of an identity statement. But if you want the most dramatic backstory in American home ownership history, the asking price is genuinely unbeatable. Cairo sits at the very bottom tip of Illinois where the Ohio and Mississippi rivers meet, which should make it one of the most strategically valuable spots in the Midwest. And once upon a time, it was. Then the economy left and didn't look back. Population peaked around 15,000 in 1920. Today, it's under 1,500. Entire blocks sit vacant. There are 19th century buildings here. Beautiful, legitimately historic, with trees growing through the interior walls because nobody stopped them in decades. But here's what the ghost town coverage always skips. The bones of Cairo are extraordinary. The river location is stunning, and for $30,000, you're buying architecture that belongs in a preservation magazine in a location that a different economic history would have made worth $500,000 without blinking. You'd be early. Whether early eventually becomes right depends entirely on what you're willing to sit with. Everyone knows the racetrack. Almost nobody knows the town sitting quietly behind it. Talladega is slow, affordable, and genuinely livable in a way that doesn't feel like a compromise once you're actually inside it. Cost of living runs about 20% below the national average. Healthcare infrastructure is solid, and a modest income here actually stretches into something that resembles financial breathing room, which is a sensation a lot of Americans have genuinely forgotten. Fun fact, Talladega has the oldest courthouse in Alabama still in active use. The town has been quietly functioning since 1835 and hasn't felt the need to announce it. The job market is thin outside of healthcare and manufacturing, and downtown has more closed storefronts than open ones. But if you're remote working, retiring, or just exhausted by the math of renting indefinitely, Talladega makes a surprisingly clean argument for itself. It just makes it quietly, without a PR budget, which is exactly why you've never heard it. Rockford wanted to be Chicago, got about 90% of the way there, and then stalled. And that 10% gap is the whole story of why it's on this list. It's Illinois' third largest city, which means actual infrastructure, a real art scene that criminally flies under the radar, and a food culture rooted in Swedish heritage that will genuinely surprise you. Bakeries, architecture, and a local stubbornness that feels like it was earned over generations rather than adopted for branding purposes. The flip side, crime is high in certain areas, and the economy never fully recovered from losing its manufacturing base. Neighborhood selection matters here more than anywhere else on this list. Buy right, and you have real equity, real space, and money left over every month. Steel collapsed in Youngstown in the late 70s so fast it left a crater the city is still climbing out of. Entire neighborhoods emptied. The population dropped by more than half. It became the shorthand people used when they needed an example of post-industrial decline. And then something quiet started happening. Artists, musicians, and remote workers priced out of every city that matters discovered that $58,000 buys you an actual house here. A house with a yard where you can exist without running financial calculations in your head every 30 seconds. Youngstown State keeps the city from going fully dark, and downtown has real momentum in pockets. Crime is a legitimate concern, and you'd be naive to ignore it. But the people moving in now aren't ignoring it. They're just betting on the trajectory. So far, that bet hasn't been obviously wrong. Selma carries more American history per square mile than almost anywhere else in this country, and no surface-level real estate rundown can hold the full weight of that. The Edmund Pettus Bridge is still standing. People still cross it. The city has never once pretended it isn't exactly what it is. What gets less coverage is the architecture. Genuinely stunning antebellum homes that in Charleston or Savannah would be listed at $800,000 and featured in magazines. Here they're affordable, sometimes dramatically so. The economy is fragile and the population has been shrinking for decades. Infrastructure needs investment it hasn't seen. These aren't small things. But there's also a generational rootedness here. Families who have been here through everything and aren't leaving. That creates a kind of community density you won't find in a town that reinvented itself for remote workers last year. Muncie is what happens when a college town loses its college energy and has to figure out who it actually is without the crowd. Ball State is still there and still keeping the lights on downtown, but the post-graduation exodus is real, and the surrounding economy hasn't filled that gap convincingly. What remains is genuinely pleasant in a low-key way. Mature tree-lined streets, older homes built when solid craftsmanship was the default rather than the upgrade, front porches on actual walkable blocks. For $90,000, you get more house than most Americans will ever own. The trade-off is a job market that rewards patience and a social life that requires some personal assembly. But bring your income with you. Remote work, freelance, anything that isn't location dependent, and Muncie stops being a fallback and starts being a decision that holds up under scrutiny. Gary has arguably the most dramatic skyline you've never seen. Steel mills, water towers, and century-old architecture all going to ruin simultaneously against a Lake Michigan backdrop. On the right morning with the right light, it genuinely looks like a painting. A painting that's been left in the rain, but still. The city's story is brutal and well documented. Industrial collapse, population loss, crime, infrastructure neglect. None of that is minor or easily dismissed, and anyone selling you Gary without those facts is selling you something else entirely. But at $40,000 median, the people buying in now are either reckless or they're seeing something the current price hasn't caught up with yet. Given that Gary sits 30 minutes from downtown Chicago with direct South Shoreline access, the second option deserves more serious consideration than most people give it. The water crisis happened. It was real, it was catastrophic, and the full accountability for it still hasn't landed where it belongs. That's just the honest version of the history. Here's the part that came after. Flint's downtown has murals, independent coffee shops, and a stubborn creative energy that keeps resurfacing despite everything the city has absorbed. Local organizations are doing actual infrastructure work, not just press releases. And for $69,000, you can own a home in a place that is genuinely, visibly, imperfectly trying, which is more than you can say for a lot of cities charging 5 times the price. The risk is real. The trajectory, if it holds, is also real. This one you go in clear-eyed or you don't go in at all. Detroit has been America's favorite decline story for 40 years. The abandoned factories, the empty blocks, the cautionary tale energy. Everyone knows the version of Detroit that fell apart. Fewer people know the version that's been quietly rebuilding while they were still doing the punchline. For $66,000, you can own a home 10 minutes from a riverfront that holds its own against anything in the Midwest, a legitimate arts district, and a food scene that would genuinely surprise you if you showed up without the preconceptions. The neighborhoods coming back are coming back with real money and real momentum behind them. The ones that aren't, you'll know. The address will tell you before you even get out of the car. Detroit rewards people who do the homework and punishes the ones who bought the aesthetic without reading the zip code. But for the people who land right, This city is building equity in both directions, the kind that shows up on a balance sheet and the kind that doesn't. The cheapest places are sometimes cheap because everyone looked at the price tag and stopped reading. Detroit's entire story is what happens when you keep going. Here's what nobody says out loud. Leaving the expensive city doesn't mean you lost. Paying $2,000 a month for a wall you'll never own in a city that keeps hiking the price just because it can, that's not winning. That's just expensive standing still. Every town on this list has someone in it right now sitting on a porch they actually own, watching a sunset that cost them $58,000 and genuinely not missing the noise. The math isn't complicated. At some point, it's just a choice. Which one are you considering? Drop it in the comments. And if your answer is none of them, tell me what you're paying in rent. The comments section will do the rest.